Well, during the summer, kids have plenty of time to run around, plenty of time to burn off all that extra energy.
But once school starts and the weather turns cold, it's harder to keep kids active. Many parents worry that inactivity could contribute to childhood obesity.
Yeah, it's a problem they're fighting at OneWorld Community Health Centers. Dr. Therese Hennessy joins us now. Good morning, doctor.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
What are some of the main causes as we talk about childhood obesity?
No, I think we will call this really an obesogenic society. It's just when you put people in the middle of our world, they tend to get obese. So obviously activity is a big part of it. A lot of children depend on school for activity, and when school's out, they have no activity. And frankly, school's not enough activity. One of the things is a lot of parents have a difficult time finding activity if their children aren't sports oriented.
Right.
So we have to kind of get everybody into that activity. But probably a bigger part of it in Omaha is just the overeating, larger portions, a lot of sugary drinks, including even 100% juice.
That's education then, isn't it? For parents to be able to look at a label and understand what those numbers mean to their families?
You know, I think for some families it's education, but for most families it's just difficult to change. Families are under a lot of pressures, and I think at OneWorld we look at a family's strengths and challenges coming into this. So for instance, some families can just jump right into it and we're changing, we're on board, we're doing it. Other families, every small change is just very, very difficult. And you have to see what can we bring to the table to help them.
Quick question, advice for parents, because I'm a parent. I grew up and they always said, eat everything on your plate. And I've heard maybe not do that as much anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the experts agree you should not eat everything on your plate. Children should learn that they should stop eating when they're full. And as a parent too, I would say refuse to have any food battles ever. If I'm battling over food, I'm going to stop and say, what are we doing here? So, for instance, in my family, if my son wouldn't eat what I prepared, which was almost all the time, he hated my food.
In my house, they would not eat my dinner.
I would choose two meals, not 2 meals every day, but 2 options for him that were healthy. So he could have a bowl of Cheerios or a piece of bread with peanut butter, and he'd prepare it himself, and that would be his option. That way, I don't have the stress as a mother. Oh, is my baby eating? Or I'm not preparing a bunch of different meals. So, and he's still, even in college now, it's the Cheerios and peanut butter.
His go-tos.
Not great diet, but he's very healthy though.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of that coin, it's using food as a sign of love. Or, I mean, for me growing up, it was a sign of therapy. You have a bad day, let's go get you some ice cream. Let's go talk about it. But food was always a big part of kind of easing any kind of negative feeling.
I'm Italian, so it's a sign of love. There's a lot of love in our family.
Yeah, so what do you say to those families?
I think that is a real challenge. We can't say we can never use food as love, but you have to kind of even make a list of what are the other ways I can show my child I love them. I mean, getting on the floor and playing one of those board games with them. The other thing you see is people using food to parent. If you find yourself not being able to go anywhere without a bag of food for your kid, you may be parenting with food. You have to stop and say, is this nutritional or is this getting my child to calm down? And I think we have to find other ways to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely not me, because that requires planning and organization to do that. So I don't necessarily do that. But when kids are, when they're overweight, when they're over obese, when they're kids, how does that affect them as they grow into adulthood? Well,
in so many ways. I mean, they don't become comfortable with exercise. So most studies show that a large portion of girls are not comfortable exercising if they're even a little bit overweight. So they won't go to gyms. It's all about their self-image. So that just leads to a lifestyle of problems. If children are overweight at the most active point in their lives, what's going to happen when they grow up? I'm overweight, but I'm older. I didn't start out this way. When kids start out overweight, at 5, 6, 7, we're going to see fatty liver disease, liver transplants. That's probably going to be the most common cause for that. But I'm trying to remember what the
That's
rest
very
of it.
serious. I mean, the consequences can be very serious. It's not just like hoping they grow out of it. Because
We used to.
Yeah. Well, I think about it. I think I weighed more when I was in 5th grade than I do today. But it was one of those things where I just thought, man, I really, I wanted to take the bull by the horns and and had family support to do it. But you encourage parents to look at the BMI.
Right.
So why should they know that number with their children?
Well, the BMI, children have to grow, and it's hard to monitor their weight at home because a lot of times we don't want them to lose weight. We just want them to slow down. So if you bring them to the office, we can calculate their weight for their height and then put them on a graph that shows them where they're at. If they're greater than 85th percentile for their height, then they're overweight, and we have to monitor. I used to think I could tell, oh, there's a heavy kid, there's a heavy kid. And now when I look at these graphs, I can start to see the risks a lot earlier than I used to as a doctor.
Yeah, and at OneWorld, that's what you'll do. You'll sit down with parents, you'll sit down with families and kids and discuss a lot of these issues. And then what's the best way to get a hold of you? OneWorldOmaha.org or give you a call at 734-4110.
But I loved what you said about every family is different. You've got to assess their challenges, their personalities, what's going to work.
Right.
Because it is about the results, and it's about the health of your family, and a timely topic now, the back-to-school season here. Doctor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
real
you for having
pleasure to
me.
Yeah,
meet
good
you.
information.
Well, yesterday was my birthday.
Are we, wait, whoa. Are we still talking about
I'm
this?
here to talk about you. Mike gave me some thoughtful gifts,
Oh,
and he
well,
also wrote a
carry
poem.
on, carry on.
He wrote a 4-line poem, and I think he just used it as an excuse to cuss. If you missed it, take a minute. The clip's posted online at omahamorningblend.com.
It wasn't that bad. The language wasn't too severe. The Village Point Farmers Market opens again tomorrow, and our next guests are going to be there.
One of them makes something that I can't recommend enough. Get a look when the Morning Blend continues.